Well, here we are at long last. The Season 2 finale of Transformers Cyberverse, the Crossroads. We begin this episode with the Autobots repairing a space bridge, which I assume they just found, with the hopes of using it as a shortcut back to Cybertron.
No idea if it's gonna work. I'm no quintessence.
See? We have our first direct reference to the existence of quintessons in the Cyberverse universe, although Wheeljack calls them quintessons, not quintessons. Are they different, or is he simply mispronouncing it, like how every time Optimus says Teletron instead of Teletran?
Teletron 1, Teletron 1, Teletron 1, Teletron 1, Teletron X, Teletron X, Teletron X, Teletron X, Teletron X, Teletron X.
It's a Teletron 1.
It's Teletran!
Whatever.
Apparently the Autobots received an urgent message from Chromia. The arc goes through the space bridge, but instead of ending up at Cybertron, they end up in Subspace, where they discover another arc. This kinda reminds me of that issue of Lost Light, where they found an alternate universe duplicate of their own ship. Optimus, Grimlock, and Wheeljack go aboard. Let's just hope they don't find Overlord or someone like that. But soon the ship starts to disintegrate, which kinda reminds me of the Langoliers, minus the awful CGI creatures themselves. Wheeljack concludes that they must escape subspace before they too disappear, which is when another arc approaches. The Autobots meet their parallel universe selves.
We went through a space bridge because we received an urgent message from Perceptor. Huh, so did we, but ours was from Chromia.
Everything's the same except we got a message from Perceptor, and ours came from Chromia.
And if that weren't enough, a third arc arrives to join the party. Or is this technically the fourth? This one being commanded by Rack and Ruin. Interesting. Does that mean that their Optimus died and Rack and Ruin was made the new leader? Does that mean that Rack and Ruin is second in command on our arc? Not necessarily. It is a different universe. I think Windblade or Grimlock would make a better replacement leader than Rack and Ruin, because the most we've seen them do is stack boxes. Although Wedge is the leader of the RescueBot recruits, and he's known for his stacking ability, maybe that's some weird Autobot test of leadership. So the three Wheeljacks come up with the plan to use the combined power of their three Allsparks to open a portal back to regular space. Unfortunately, the power of 3 Allsparks isn't enough, and Wheeljack number 2, or is it 3, the Perceptor Timeline Wheeljack disappears, along with his arc and crew. I guess they've been in subspace longer than our Wheeljack. But then a whole lot more arcs arrive in subspace. Okay, now this is really reminding me of that next gen episode, Parallels, where they encounter a bunch of enterprises from alternate universes, including one from a universe overrun by the Borg. Now this really makes me wish we had some kind of variation between all these different realities. We know in Transformers, alternate universes are a dime a dozen. It would have been really cool if we had different versions of Optimus Prime here instead of just Cyberverse Optimus. Or do the same thing they did with Rack and Ruin and have one ship where Windblade is in command, one where Hot Rod is in command, one where Grimlock is in command, Bumblebee, etc. Or if they still wanted to have Optimus in command of most of them, but obviously didn't want to spend the time and money making totally new models for each one, why not just have them be different colors? Make a blue one based on Diaclone Optimus Prime, or a white one based on Ultra Magnus, or one with flames based on Movie Optimus, or something other than having 9 of the exact same Optimus Prime. Heck, even changing the way each one talked would have at least given us something to differentiate them. Why not a British Optimus Prime? Or a Canadian Optimus Prime? Or an Australian Optimus Prime? Man, I cannot do accents. Or how about a Optimus that talks like William Shatner? Or one that talks like Patrick Stewart, to keep it with the Star Trek theme of this episode.
Engage.
Man, I cannot do impressions either. But anyways, all of them agree to pool the power of their 11 Allsparks. Or is it 9? I think they kind of lost track of how many arcs are supposed to be here at some point, because by my count there should be 11 arcs, but in this shot we only see 9. Remember, we started with our arc, then they found that old one that disintegrated almost immediately after they found it. So that's arc 2, but now we're back to 1 total. Arc 3 is the Perceptor Timeline arc, so now we have 2 arcs, then the Rack and Ruin commanded arc shows up. That's arc number 4, bringing the total to 3 currently. But then, after their first attempt, Arc 3, the Perceptor timeline arc, disappears, leaving us with just 2. That is until all these other arcs arrive, which I count to be 9 in total, bringing our grand total of arcs to 11. But in these final scenes, we only see 9. Did 2 of them disintegrate? No, it was probably just an animation error, or more likely they just lost track of how many arcs are supposed to be here. But back to the episode, the arcs roll out through the portal, which, even though they all go through the same portal, each arc seems to get back to their own universe, however that works, and they all arrive back home to Cybertron. However, it seems the Decepticons have been waiting for them.
Fine work, Chromia.
Now I doubt Chromia is truly a traitor. I think she's been coerced in some way, but we'll have to wait until the next season to know for sure, because that's the end of this episode, and the end of Transformers Cyberverse Season 2. This was a great episode of Transformers Cyberverse, even if it seems like someone at Boulder Media can't count. By the way, I find it funny that Jake Tillman got credit for playing 10 Optimus Primes. It was a fun story, but again, I wish they did add a little bit of variety to each of the arcs. Even in the final rollout scene, where you can see a bunch of the other Autobots on board their respective arcs, it's all the exact same shot and layout of Autobots. Would it have killed them to switch some of the characters around? Like have Cheetor on the right and Windblade on the left in one shot? Or what about swapping characters entirely, like switch Wheeljack for Grimlock, or Hot Rod for Drift? Or something, But yeah, what else is there to say about this episode? It was a pretty good end to the season, and I cannot wait for the next one. Overall, I think this season was better than Season 2. It's very different from the last season, where it was mostly focused on a smaller cast of characters, specifically Bumblebee and Windblade, and their run-ins with Slipstream and her Seekers. Although we did have each episode spliced with flashbacks to other times and other characters, it did seem like most of the focus was on Bumblebee, obviously because it's Bumblebee's memories. But this season seems to be less focused. I mean, if this season was focused on any character, it might have been Starscream. Well, now that I think about it, the first third of the season was more focused on Cheetor, then the second third was Starscream, and then the third was, well, I guess no one in particular. This season was definitely more of an ensemble than the previous one. Although with that in mind, I feel like I have to point out that there definitely seem to be more animation errors in this season than the last. Maybe it's related because they're dealing with more characters in every episode, so it's harder to keep track. But still, I'm hoping next season we'll see better quality animation, from nixing the kind of animation and continuity errors that plagued this season, to improved fight choreography, to more creative, less repetitive animation in general. I'm hoping the story is much improved overall too. One thing Season 1 did really well is that each episode felt like it advanced the story in a logical and organic way, whereas this season felt very rough and full of plot holes. For one thing, we never did find out exactly how Starscream survived. Was he just knocked out and everyone thought he was dead? Or was he actually dead and someone or something brought him back to life? And was that someone or something Cheetor using the power of the Allspark? If it was Cheetor, then shouldn't he feel some guilt for Starscream's actions? And if it wasn't Cheetor, then who was it? Or what about the gimmick of this season, Spark Armor? It felt entirely pointless. Optimus and Megatron lose theirs moments after gaining them. We see Starscream, Jetfire, and Skybite seem to be unstoppable in theirs, but they too seem to lose them almost as easily, or even willingly in the case of Jetfire. Starscream even gets the Allspark back, but doesn't give himself armor again. Is it something where you can only get Spark Armor once? Does it have a time limit? This is never explained. And then when the Autobots have the Allspark in their possession, they don't use it to give themselves Spark Armor, even though Bumblebee, Cheetor, Prowl, Ratchet, and Grimlock all have Spark Armor in the toy line. They only seem to use the Allspark like Sari's Key in Transformers Animated. It just seems to be their fix-all solution. We also never find out what the deal is with Bludgeon. Why did he kill Slipstream? Is he still floating out in space somewhere? We don't see him in any episodes afterwards. Why did Slipstream not turn gray like her fellow Seekers did when Starscream killed them? And why did her eyes change from Decepticon red to Autobot teal before she died? Also, what about Starscream's scramblets? Were any of them left on Earth when the Autobots departed? Are the humans just supposed to take care of them? There's so many little things like this we never got answers to. Maybe if this show was a full half hour, or 22 minutes instead of these 11-minute episodes, they might have more time to explain things. And just a better, more thought out plot overall would greatly improve this series. For example, back in the episode Infinite Vendetta, we see Wheeljack and Shockwave having invented their own Seekers. How does a Seeker work? Who knows? And it really doesn't matter because they're made completely pointless by the fact that Starscream takes Jetfire and Skybite to the Allspark chamber where he's hiding, thereby leading their respective factions right to him in the next episode. Also, how did neither the Autobots or Decepticons not check here earlier? We saw the Autobots go check out the silo where Starscream was hiding before. You'd think they'd be actively searching for him, looking everywhere they can think of. Well, still, this was a pretty good season. Even if the overall story arc was lacking, some of the individual episodes were great. From the aliens-ish Starscream's children to the zombie hate plague referencing Party Down. There's plenty of great solo episodes which, while they may not contribute much to the overall plot, they are worth repeated viewings. So, those are my thoughts on the Season 2 finale of Transformers Cyberverse, and Season 2 in general. It was pretty good, but there's still lots of room for improvement before I'd say they come close to the likes of Beast Wars or Transformers Animated as being one of the best Transformers series of all time. But the potential is definitely there. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to tell me what you thought of this episode and Cyberverse Season 2 in general down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you back here for more Transformers news, reviews, and other stuff as we wait for the eventual Season 3. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Autobots, roll out!